Hi, I'm Ken Spector, and I'm here today with Chris Schaffer. And Chris Schaffer is the captain on the ship called the Kaisei. Can you tell me a little bit about what you see when you're out in the Pacific Ocean? What do you see in terms of this garbage dryer, the Pacific Gyre that we're hearing about?
Well, I've been sailing across the Pacific 7 times, and over the last 20 years ago there was virtually nothing. You would find the occasional fisherman's debris, and that was it. Over the last 10 years, it is like going through a litter zone. It's absolutely proliferated the whole Pacific area, and it is directed by the convergence currents. And you have the Pacific current that actually is like a suction, and it grabs onto this garbage and puts it into a sort of a bundle, and then brings it to this area about 800 miles west of San Francisco. So our goal with Kaisei, which is a 150-foot brigantine, if you go to the website, Project Kaisei, or Google that, you'll see pictures and you get a whole idea of what we're actually doing, is to go out to that area and to capture this garbage and bring it back and bring it under the Golden Gate Bridge so that people can see it and just go, oh my gosh, this is just not cool.
How deep is the debris? How far have you sent probes down to sample the water?
Well, the debris goes from the surface down about 20 feet. And what happens is that the debris, as it moves through the currents and as it's jostled around out in the middle of the ocean, eventually starts to break down. It doesn't disappear. And that's the nefarious aspect of this particular plastic, is it doesn't disappear. But it does break down into smaller pieces. So it breaks down into, say, the size of a dime. Now, that size of a dime can be eaten by fish. So what's happening is your little fish eat it, then your big fish eats your little fish, and your whales who scoop their krill by just opening their mouths and flowing through the water, and they just take whatever's there. Normally it would have been food source, is now plastic. So you get a soup of this plastic, which is about 6 foot deep. It does go down to about 20, but your major danger area is up for 6 feet. So our goal is to take fishing seiners and take the fishing industry and not change it, but remodel what we're going to do with the fishing boats, which is to go out and on off-season catch plastic. So it's a way for us to bring a stimulus package to the fishing community, which has thousands of unemployed fishermen right now on boats that aren't working, is to reinvigorate them to go out and clean up their catch. So there's one, they clean up the ocean, 2, they get rid of the plastic, which is toxic and poisoning the fishes, and 3, it gives them a job and gives them income for themselves and their families.
So if I go swimming at the beach up in Santa Monica, for instance, are there a lot of plastic particles in that water right at the beach?
Right at the beach. And on the beach. So there are plastic particles out at sea. There are plastic particles on the beach. One of the culprits here are, particularly in Los Angeles, is when you get our big rains, and you get that big temporary flooding, is it grabs all of the plastic that is in the LA rivers and in the gutters, and it just washes it out to sea. So sometimes it'll wash it out to sea and then the tide will bring it back. Sometimes it'll wash it out to sea, it'll get picked up by the current and then get caught in this circle. And we'll end up over in China, we'll end up in Japan, we'll end up all over the Pacific Rim.
So if I go swimming, let's say in Santa Monica, the plastic, it's going into my ears perhaps, so I'm swimming into my mouth. What's happening to this plastic?
If you took a big gulp, it would go into your mouth. It's not going to go into your ears, but it is definitely there and it's a presence. So it's as a danger to you as a human, it's the toxic effects of the plastic. Plastic has POPs in it, and that is a basic toxin that leaches into the ocean. So you have that problem just in your general water and contaminating the water. The biggest issue is that it becomes an unknown food source for fish and birds. So you'll see birds who will dive on what they think is a fish, but it's a piece of plastic. Now, once they've made their dive, they don't stop because they look at it and say, oh, that's a Coca-Cola bottle or something like that. They swallow it. You dissect these birds and you dissect these fish, and in the middle of them you'll see all this plastic that never disappears and rips their insides up.
So the issue of this ocean debris is not restricted to the North Pacific Gyre. It's hit our shores. It's here now.
It's not only here now, but it comes from here. 20% of all the proliferation of the gyra plastic is from ships at sea that throw out their garbage. 80% is land-based plastics that get washed out to sea, get in the convergence zone, and become part of this never-ending cycle. It's like a toilet in the sense like if you flush it, it grabs that gravity and keeps moving it down. So it doesn't just disappear. It's there forever.
What are some of the most promising solutions you've heard regarding this problem, and what are some things that people can do that are watching this video? What can they do to help with this problem?
Well, they can go to www.projectkaisei, K-A-I-S-E-I. The gyre has been identified and is acknowledged as an existing problem. There are various universities that are doing studies on it. Project Kaisei and Ocean Voyages Institute are the only two real groups that are actually actively trying to capture the plastics out there. There are several groups that have worked hard to identify it, so we look at them as being the first phase and are very grateful for that because they've given us the impetus to get out there and do it. They're theoretical, we're action-based, so as an action-based group we're going out there and we're physically grabbing this and bringing it back. We have recently recruited the fishing industry, which I mentioned earlier is dying. We have over 1,000 fishing vessels that can't fish because the fish population has been decimated, and a lot of that because of the plastic problems. So we are going to the government to try and get them to support us, to support the fishermen, to use their equipment, their skills, their knowledge, and their years and years and years of ocean experience and love for the ocean to get out there and clean it up. So your question of what can someone do, they can go to the website. There is a call to action on the website. All of this costs money. We need support. Eventually we'll need congressional support where we can actually get stimulus money to turn this into a lifelong career of ocean-loving people to clean it up. And also people need to realize that plastic is not a horrible thing, but it shouldn't just be used once and thrown away. It is a severe problem that has long-term issues. We know that it's leaching toxins into the ocean. Now the ocean, even more than the rainforest, is where we get our oxygen from. We're 70% of the body of the planet is ocean. It is our source for oxygen. It's how we breathe, and it is what cleans up our air. You look at clouds. Clouds are going by basically absorbing water from the ocean, coming up, and then recycling that water back down into fresh rain. If at some point in time, for instance, the pollutions out of China are actually coming across the Pacific Ocean and then turn into rain onto the American soils. So it is a known issue. It's not like, oh gosh, what's going to happen? It's happening.
Right, but do we know what's going to happen to the plastic once it turns into a dust?
The plastic on the ocean?
The plastic on the ocean, as it's ground down into smaller and smaller particles.
It never goes away. It's a molecular structure which is alien to the ocean. So it may go into a dust, but it'll just become finer and finer, but it doesn't mean that it's gone away. As a matter of fact, that's worse. Because then when you're out there swimming and you take a gulp of water by mistake, you just suck down a big old mouthful of plastic. But the there are two immediate issues. One is toxicity, which happens from the leaching being where it dissipates the toxins that are built within it, because plastic is a petroleum-based product. So you're basically, petroleum-based means gasoline and oil. So you're actually bleeding that oil and that gasoline into the ocean itself. And then the second is that all of the fish that we eat and all the mammals, sea mammals, the dolphins, the seals, and the whales are constantly consuming that because their feeding pattern is to just open their mouths and let in the krill or let in the protein or let in the shrimp. And then they filter it through their filters, and what happens is because it's a permanent issue, it clogs the filters and kills them. You can go to the school board and explain this to them and just recommend that kids start getting an education about this. It's a problem that we know. Subconsciously we're aware of this. It's just our nature is not to waste, but we know when we drink that water bottle and just throw it away, it's out of our hands, let someone else deal with it. Now that dealing with it doesn't happen. So it is an issue that can be dealt with. Our goal is to capture a big segment of this and then capture the minds and hearts of the people who see this and the government to allow them to look at this as a responsibility, and we'll do the hard work, we'll do the heavy lifting, but we need the support.
Thank you so much, Captain Schaffer. Really appreciate your time. Wow.
No problem.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.